This is a video that will demonstrate the movement of the moon in an astrology chart over the course of 29 to 30 days to show the different phases of the moon. At the beginning of this demonstration, the sun and the moon are conjunct one another, and this actually shows the new moon phase. So the sun is above the moon, and it represents the beginning of the next lunar cycle. If we actually move back 1 minute, we will see that the moon ends up above the sun. This is the balsamic moon phase. As time moves forward, the moon and the sun will separate in a counterclockwise direction, and the movement of the moon will be done at 1 day at a time. So here we have the sun and the moon beginning to separate. And what we will see as the moon advances each day is eventually there will be a relationship formed between the sun and the moon that will have greater significance because of the particular angle of that relationship. That will happen when the sun and the moon are 90 degrees apart. And what you will see is that the program puts in a red line with a square in it, and the sun and the moon are said to be in a square relationship at this time. This square relationship is determined by the fact that the sun is in Gemini and the moon is in Virgo, and these energies are essentially 90 degrees apart. You will also notice that the sun on this particular day of June the 10th is at 19 degrees and 15 minutes of Gemini, while the moon is at 21 degrees and 29 minutes of Virgo. There is an allowable orb of influence, usually up to 3 to 9 degrees, depending on the points that are involved, and a range of degrees before and after that will activate this particular energy. In the case of the sun and the moon, the larger number of degrees are used because of the strength of these individual points. Other points do not receive the same strength, so the orb of influence is usually considered smaller and closer to the 3-degree amount. Now, what will happen as the sun and the moon continue their journey through the days, the moon will separate further from the sun. There is another angle of importance. This is called a trine, and it's shown by a blue line with a triangle in it. What you'll notice is in this case that the sun and the moon are in signs that are of the same element. And so they actually flow well together. In this case, the sun is in Gemini and the moon is in Libra. And as you can see, the sun is at 21 degrees and the moon is at 19, so well within an orb of influence that would create this particular relationship. As the days continue, eventually what will happen is that the sun and the moon will end up in an opposition to one another. This is the full moon phase. If you were to pull up someone's chart, run their chart, and to see their sun and moon opposing one another, they would be in a full moon or born during a full moon. Now, as this advances to form another trine relationship, this orb of influence will now create a new wrinkle in understanding the relationship, because in this particular case, what we have is the sun and the moon in a trine. The sun, however, is in the sign of Cancer, and the moon is in the sign of Aquarius, which means it is in an air sign rather than a water sign. The trining energy is still in effect, which is a flowing energy, but now it's complicated by the fact that one element is water and the other element is air, and these elements do not actually complement one another. So we would, as astrologers, have to interpret this in a slightly different way than we would if the sun and the moon were actually in their natural trine state, which would be sharing the same element, which we would actually be able to get by advancing the sun and the moon several hours. And if we do so, we will end up with eventually the sun and the moon in the same element, where now we have the sun in Cancer and the moon in Pisces. If we go back to advancing the days, we will eventually get the sun and the moon to hit another square relationship and advance to where it becomes the balsamic moon phase. This is the phase that precedes the next new moon. So the next day forward will be a new moon phase. People born with their moon in the balsamic phase are dealing with endings as a common theme in their lifetime. So the sun and moon, because it deals with our life path and our soul path, has to do with how we are going to engage in our life energy with our relationships to people emotionally in certain ways because of the birth time that was selected by our soul to come into this incarnation. I hope you found this useful, as other future videos will try to demonstrate more of the chart for you.